Hey guys, welcome to the Game Huddle. It is I, Mr. Utah, here as your host for today's podcast. I've got almost the whole gang here, the whole huddle. I've got Vavorless,
Sup?
got Passmon,
Hello.
got Sir Tarquin,
Sup?
and Undead Lord Monroe.
Yeah.
And so we for today we've got For Honor, and For Honor's been around for almost a little bit over a year now, and we wanted to try and discuss a little bit about what the game has kind of left of impression on us. And I would like to start off with the idea or the discussion of what have you guys felt the game has impacted the overall gaming environment. And by I'll start off with the gaming environment. How has this game changed the feel for how other developers look at games themselves?
Honestly, from my experience, knowing how popular For Honor actually is, I don't feel like it's done too much because I feel like For Honor had a lot of potential, and when it first came out, it kind of had a lot of mechanics that were different than most fighting games, so it drew a lot of people away.
But
So,
it also has because it was different, it drew people in.
well, for like the hardcore fighter game players, like you have people playing Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, although not as popular anymore. Tekken, all those, the hardcore games. That's the kind of fighting game people think of when they think of fighting games, for the most part. So when For Honor came out and it was trying to, it copied a lot of stuff from Siege, as in like how they set up. So a lot of people, they didn't expect it and they didn't like it. They weren't looking. They didn't get the correct audience that it looked like they were trying to go for, or at least the audience wasn't attracted by it. So when it came out, I don't think it had a big impact, like at all. But over time, people started liking the game more because they've started catering to more of what the audience should be, and who, and not like
Ubisoft listens to the player base very, very well, to be honest.
And I agree with that.
The fact that and I was talking to Gray about this earlier. Ubisoft literally has come out and said the reason that they Tachanka in Rainbow Six Siege, for example, is because in order to make him a viable operator, they would have to completely change him, and they're not going to do that because they know the fan base would hate them because he's such a big meme. They literally have said that.
And that's what's kind of interesting. And the discussion of Siege is can be a whole different story of how the Siege in the Ubisoft is a parent company, and the Rainbow Six Siege team is its completely own entity. It just has that parent Ubisoft, and I feel like For Honor is that same idea of that. There's a For Honor team that is doing whatever it takes to help the environment of the community grow, and Ubisoft is just its face, and
Yeah.
I agree. I think they're definitely, like, in their most recent update, season 8 or season 7.
Seven.
I mean, season 7. They in the ranked rewards every season would they would make it so once the next season started, the original ranked season rewards you wouldn't be able to get them anymore. But this season, a lot of people really wanted those rewards to come back. They didn't want them to take content away from the game, and so they brought everything back. You can now unlock everything that used to be able to, just because they were listening and they're like, "Yep, that's what they want," then we'll bring it to them.
Wait, are you serious? So I can go get my ornaments that I wasn't able to get in season 5?
You didn't know that?
Wait,
I'm
what?
not gonna swear, but yes.
And so I've got another question that kind of the right off, you were kind of mentioning it a little bit earlier, Vavorless, is has this game changed the mindset for gamers and or developers on the mindset on fighting games, even so as far as fighting games like Mortal Kombat and like Street Fighter?
Back then when it was released, I say no. But now, at least from like season 6 and then past, they've really taken into consideration a lot of things, and now I think it does influence a lot of other games in the fighting genre, because a big part of gaming in general is customization. And a lot of when For Honor first came out, it had like no customization. And obviously, people like customization because it makes it more of a personal thing. So when they're allowing that, it got to make other fighting games think about this, because a lot of people want the uniqueness of the character. They like to put themselves in those shoes, and I think that's
And have
a
the
big
kicks
part.
and giggles of having silly looking stuff.
Yeah, and there's always those guys wearing the ridiculous outfits, even if they're terrible.
So yeah.
I just want to kind of like add something. What I'm thinking about with when For Honor first came out, I think it really introduced a kind of a new skill set or way to play a fighting game, because before then, at least for me, I had never like played a game where you fought with swords and you didn't just spam click,
Oh,
you didn't
yeah.
have like a bunch of different move sets. This one, it's like if your mouse, or for me, it's mouse, if your controller or wherever you're resting your sword isn't in the right place, you're in trouble. You've already messed up, So to me, like that aspect is totally introduced, and I haven't really seen it been used in other games yet, but I feel like that's got a huge potential.
Absolver is
Yeah, there's
the newest
Absolver.
one that's very similar to that.
One that comes to mind for me is Kingdom Come Deliverance. That one.
Right,
Yeah.
because they came into it with an 8 stance one.
Yeah, so I think For Honor, like today, it's been influencing games of all types.
It's just really cool because now you had a sword fighting game that like introduced the actual sword fight and made it super skillful and super cool.
It's not
to, like,
a hack and slash.
Yeah,
because most sword fighting games are just hack and slashes, like Samurai Heroes or whatever.
Samurai Warriors.
It feels way more realistic, I guess.
Yeah, I think the game is beautiful. I love the game.
I agree.
So as beautiful as the game is, what problems are hindering the game right now?
Obviously there are a lot of unbalanced characters, both really, really low tier characters like the Valkyrie, and some characters that don't have really much openers, like the Raider he doesn't have much of a kit right now. And then there's the opposite end, where there's characters that are really, really strong. Obviously, everyone complains about the Shaman. They have a big issue with balancing the game, and they've tried doing reworks, like recent reworks, to try to fix that problem. But the Warden rework, I don't like it so far. The Valkyrie still isn't very viable. When they did the Orochi rework last season, now he was useless back then for the most part, but now he's just too strong, unless you have like heightened reflexes or something, because he's just so fast.
Yeah, I noticed that when I way back, like when I first bought the game, I was having such a problem with the servers. It's just completely shutting down on me all the time.
Oh, yeah.
But and then this is on the Xbox, and back in the day, it would put me up against people that were way beyond my skill level, and it would be a complete crapshoot of a duel or whatever game I was playing. And I know that Passmon can relate to this, and that the difficulties that sometimes the matchmaking kind of really puts you up against people that are definitely not even your skill level.
Yeah, a little bit. Sorry, continue.
You have anything else to say, Passmon? Do you have any thoughts? The game sucks. And so, I wish that the game was there. You would pick your the warrior you wanted to play before you entered matchmaking, because once you get into like rep 26 or like 28, or you get in these higher reps, it puts you up against those people, and like, okay, I want to learn someone else, and you go to learn someone else, and then it still puts you up against those same people that you would be as if you were playing your main character that you play the most. And so it becomes really frustrating to learn new characters.
So you're saying you would like it better if it matched you based on your character's rep instead of overall rep?
In a way, but I do appreciate how it's like, okay, it's the overall rep. This person knows how to play For Honor. All the details can be put in place, but if it's like someone that is kind of new to the game and they're bouncing around between reps, they're like for example me, I was reputation like 4 or 5 with the Raider, and I go play the Warden, and I'm completely new with how the Warden, works and stuff like that, and I just get completely washed. I never won a match once, or I was just completely useless.
Well, I
And
think that's
so
because
it
they
really
have a very like faulty match system. Because when you're in the loading queue to get into a match, if you notice, one of them says skill level, and so it matches you based on obviously skills. And I think that the skill level thing is based on like KDA and stuff like that. So when you're newer and your KDA is like actually really good because
you've only played the game for a little bit.
exactly. So it's gonna match you with people who are actually really good. So new players will have a harder time, but the farther you get into it, I don't know. I guess because then the higher players can wail on the weaker players, and they just keep their high KDA. So I think it's
And
very
so
yeah.
And so how has this game lasted against the test of time when it was released last year in February?
Ubisoft has they announced at E3 that this was going to be their dedicated fighting game. They wanted to put a lot more effort into it and try much harder, and you can see it. You can see Ubisoft. They're adding the new faction, the Wu Lin faction. They're doing a lot more with like the graphics updates coming out soon.
And I
So I
think
think it's it's still a baby game, but over time I think it'll last a long time. They've especially with the
It's gotten
increased support they
much
got
better.
for it.
yeah,
Yeah, it's gotten much better. It's gotten much bigger. It started becoming like a major esport. They've started doing a lot more tournaments.
Yeah.
There's like a lot of tracking for players. I also think one of the things about this game that's the problem with how it's lasted is it is like most games, Overwatch, for example, the PC and the console are two completely different games because of just how it works. Like when you're playing on PC, everything is parried, everything is super, like frames are just a lot different. It's just a lot easier to do things on a PC than it is on console.
I feel like
so.
For Honor was built to be more of a console game, though. I don't feel like it stands very well in the PC landscape.
See, which I think it's the opposite. I think it does very well as a PC game. I think that console just has, because it has no frames and stuff like fighting game, like people can just spam all they want. So
yeah, I could see that.
I feel like we're gonna have to see which way they take it, because I mean, it's like the same thing for Overwatch. If you try and buff and nerf characters based on like console stats or PC stats, then one or the other is going to get unbalanced. You can't balance a game that's two different games.
Yeah, I see a lot of games trying to do that, or they'll try balancing it into a more competitive scene just for the esports appeal of a lot of games nowadays. Like Overwatch, for example, again, they've just kind of blasted it with more competitive things, and I think that's what ruins a lot of games. And For Honor, like Ubisoft with Siege and For Honor, the more characters they're adding, the more complex they keep getting. And so it's because I don't think they're necessarily running out of ideas and they're trying to just make more unique stuff. I feel like they're trying to make the game more competitive so they can bring it into a major esports scene. I think if that is For Honor's future, then I don't know how it'll stand later. I would not enjoy it if it was extremely competitive. It's already a competitive game, but
Yeah, it does kind of ruin sometimes the fun when people are just so uptight at just to freaking win, and it just
yeah.
doesn't become fun anymore. So, kind of the so speaking of the multiplayer, does it stand by itself in today's standards?
The multiplayer, well, you don't hear much.
As a game, does it stand by itself?
If the game was released without a story and also with the multiplayer compared to games nowadays, I see a lot of multiplayer games. Multiplayer games in general are kind of going down in quality, I feel like, because a lot of them are just trying to either they're just copying other games or stuff like that. But For Honor is very unique in it, as we already explained, in its fighting genre. It does stuff that most fighting games don't already do.
It's basically its own genre, to be honest.
Yeah, I feel like For Honor it's multiplayer, especially because no one really talks about the campaign. The multiplayer, if you released it purely on the multiplayer and they focused just on the multiplayer, it's still an amazing game, even if it just had that. Today's standards, I think it definitely clears what people would consider the minimum for a multiplayer game.
That's not shooting down the campaign at all either. The campaign was a fantastic campaign for what they could do, considering the type of game For Honor is.
The campaign was very, very visually appealing, and the story was. A lot of people give it a hard time, but I actually really enjoyed the campaign.
I did.
I feel like there's a lot people weren't looking into when it came to the game. For example, if you play the campaign, they have those little the eye things that you can look at that tell you a bit about the lore behind the story. And I feel like a lot of people, instead of taking the time to listen and really get into the campaign, they just they just went in, looked on YouTube just to find them all and get the rewards at the end.
I think for me in the campaign, like that, I did think that was a really good campaign, for the game especially, because it just introduced. It was like it wasn't really telling a story as much as it was like introducing characters and kind of giving you this world of, hey, this is For Honor, this is where it comes from.
This is why everybody's
like, here's a story that we'd love to tell. Like that wasn't the point. The point was to introduce the game, and I thought that did it really well.
Yeah, I think it introduced the game amazingly, and they even set it up for more story and speculation at the very end when they were with the 3 people from each faction. So I feel like later they might come with another campaign, like more campaign stories, and I think they could do really well with it because they've already set it up so brilliantly.
So my thoughts, the multiplayer, I think barely stands on its own. It does do a really good job on making it feel like I really enjoy how they've come up with the rep system. I thought that was a very original idea. They've made how the customization amazing. It's very tempting to buy something from there and it's all the microtransactions. I don't mind microtransactions. It's if it affects the game. And cough.
No, because everything you can get from Steel is purely cosmetics. So Steel
right, it's all purely cosmetics, and that's what I really like about the game.
Yeah.
And so, I think the campaign, I don't think it does stand by itself. I felt like it was
the campaign definitely doesn't stand by itself.
Yeah, I don't think it stands by itself, but I did enjoy it, is what I'm saying.
I haven't played the whole thing, and I've sort of enjoyed it. There's just been, in my opinion, just too much of like, I wish they made I have like loved looking at what they, the visuals and learning the lore, but I just didn't like how hard it was to find those things. It was just like it kind of slows down the game, and then the cutscenes, it's like, oh, okay, these are kind of cool. I like the character development, and then you kind of get attached. For example, the Warden character, I was kind of getting attached to him, and then I find out later that you don't really talk to him ever again.
You do.
Not much though.
Yeah, you
Have
face him
you?
as the Orochi.
So when you said you haven't played through the whole campaign, have
Well,
you got?
someone told me that you don't really play him anymore, or you don't
Yeah.
really get to
Well,
know
no,
him
you
anymore.
don't.
Well, you
but
don't
you
get to
do
play
get to
him,
know
but
him.
you
He's
get to
definitely.
see him. You get to
beat
know
him
what he
up.
does.
Heck, you get
And
to
it is a
fight him later.
big part of the
Yeah,
story.
I heard
realizing
about you
what-
get to fight him, but you don't really get you don't like. I got attached to him. I'm like, oh, I don't get to play him anymore. That kind of sucks. I don't get to follow him anymore. And so,
One
but
thing
that was just like how the game, and I wasn't mad at the game for that. It was its direction. It was like, okay, we're gonna go somewhere else now. You know, we've learned about the warden. Now it's time to go somewhere else. And I wasn't used to that. It just made me uncomfortable. I'm not mad at it. It was just like, oh,
They're
that
trying
kinda
something
sucks.
new. I think it's.
And that's the thing about
Yeah.
For Honor. It's just this game that's so different, and it kind of puts a mark in game. To me, in my opinion, I think it's impacted the overall gaming environment quite a bit, even though probably a lot of people don't realize it.
I
Is that it's
gotta
just been
admit one
so
thing
different and diverse.
Yeah.
with like the campaign, what you were talking about there, and I know this is just kind of out there, but I think it would have been really cool if they could have somehow made like the final scene where you fight. What's her name?
Apollyon.
Yeah, Apollyon. When you fight her, like you get to pick what character you are playing as. Like I thought that actually would be really, really cool. But
Oh,
it
like
would
between
kinda,
the three factions?
yeah,
Yeah.
you could be like, well, I want to be the warden, or no, I want to be the raider. And I mean, I finished the campaign playing the Orochi, and then when I went to like multiplayer, like Orochi was who I was familiar with, so that's who I just kept playing because I had stayed too long away from the warden and the raider. Like they just felt clunky compared to. So I'm not saying like the campaign decided who I played, but it did kind of feel that way, which isn't a bad thing. It's just kind of interesting to note.
That's one thing I also enjoy about the campaign, though. They did stick on those the warden, the raider, and the Orochi a lot, but they also forced you to try out new characters. Like you get to play as the Lawbringer, you get to play as the Valkyrie, you get to play as the Kensei. It forces you to try new things as well, so you can't just go through the
And
game.
that's how you were able to get to know other characters, is by
Exactly.
playing them. And that's what I liked about it. It was just kind of a bummer. I was like, oh, goodbye, warden.
Well,
And so, and then you go on to playing the Vikings, and so, but one of the important things that I just marveled at the game. I think this is what also is like, I think makes it being able to stand on its own, is the visuals that it has. To me, I've been really able to appreciate it while playing, but gosh darn that freaking HUD. That HUD is so annoying when you play multiplayer. It's like trying to play, like it's like playing a slot machine, you know?
it is pretty bright and
It's
stuff.
like 5+. Whoa!
I
You know, there's slot machines on both of the screens while each side is trying to kill each other, and then like +2, you killed a minion. Heck yeah! You're being healed. Let me just fill your screen full of green pluses. And it's like, just leave me alone and let me enjoy the visuals of the game. You know,
Well, I
I do
think-
enjoy like with the executions and like the effects that you can have, and like the sound designing of noises being chopped off, the heads being chopped off, and a big gong being sung over in the corner that is nowhere near. You know, I can enjoy that, but when you stick stuff on my screen that doesn't have a purpose to the game besides like temporal, like +2, it's just like, get that off. It's like there's no point to it, and I hope that they fix that in the graphical rework scheduled for season 8.
You would hate playing on PC even more because PC tells you every damage of every attack that's ever done.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
I mean,
Gosh
I don't
dang.
mind that actually, because then
Me, I was gonna say I don't.
you can
either.
kind of see what they deal with certain attacks. Like that's not a bad thing in my opinion, but
Well,
I
No, that's what I'm
actually
saying. Joe would
enjoy
hate it though, because Joe would hate
That's-
it because it pops up every message.
And so it really, that kind of stuff really kind of hides if you turn off the HUD in that game, like everything, and then you play it, the game becomes amazing. It is able to tell you a story. Even in the multiplayer, it's able to tell a story.
You just go 1
in
and
the
8.
environment, you just go 1 and 8 because you can't see anything.
Well, they should make it so it's like you can only see your stances.
And that's what I
their
do,
stances.
and that's what I usually do, and that's why I like in the games that, like when we play, and I'm like, oh, are they breaking? Because none of that stuff is showing on my screen.
Well, I am going to disagree with all that because I like more information. I always look around my entire screen in every game. I enjoy knowing every detail of because that's how I get better. And the more informed you are, I feel like the more
The more of an
overall,
edge.
what are they
Yeah,
called?
I'd agree
Micro.
with that. Information is very useful.
I love
And that's
information.
that was the point of it. But I think it takes kind of it takes you away from the visuals of the game.
Well,
Like,
you've
okay,
also
if I
gotta-
want to play this
It's
game
less
and I want to try
immersive?
hard,
Is that what you're saying?
it's
All right, I would like to
it's-
just point out kind of the same thing. I'm literally okay. So I am playing a duel right now.
Oh
And-
my gosh.
Okay, the lightning. There's like it's storming, and the lightning just flashed and didn't allow me to parry because like it flashed and I couldn't tell what I was doing. Like
I don't know if it's that bothersome, but
it
I've
was
never had
big.
that
Like
happen.
I would
my
like
whole
to-
screen just went white. My whole
would
screen
like-
went white.
to point
Like-
out, Joe, that the game was built to be a dueling game. The Dominion mode, although is popular, the game is meant for duels. And when you're in a duel, there's not all that chaoticness all the time going on. It's a simple duel, and like the visual effects, like the green glow and all that when you're healing. I enjoy that because if you don't if you won't be able to notice that you're getting healed unless you're like really paying attention to your health or something. I enjoy that I don't know if it should necessarily cover the entire screen like you said, but I think it should definitely be prominent so you can quickly understand what's going on and then move on.
So I guess I'm taking I guess a more of an artistic feel. You know, like you were saying, you're very personal. You're very you've been so personalized to the character or the warrior that you've chosen. You know, and then you get into the game. You're like, okay, now I'm playing a game and I'm gonna beat them. Not for the pure fact that what am I playing? What does the environment look around me and how pretty it looks?
Well, not gonna lie.
And so-
half the games I play, I pick my character based on what they look like.
Right, and so taking a step back, I think the visuals of the game are absolutely amazing, and I'm very proud of the people who put their effort into all the maps and like the characters and all the different armor pieces and the swords, and it's just like it makes the game different. But I think that I bring the HUD discussion into play because I think the HUD is for those people that want all that information, and so they sacrifice the immersion of the game, which is something that is totally fine, and I think that is something that is contributing to the tryhards that are kind of maybe sometimes ruining the game. It's because the game is allowing them and is rewarding them for being tryhards.
I think it's kind of hard to find a game that doesn't reward tryhards because
I agree.
I mean,
I
think of
agree
the
too.
name tryhard. They're trying very hard. They're taking every single little thing they can possibly get to get that tiny 1% advantage. Like that's the point. If your game doesn't support that, which I can't think of a single one that wouldn't, like, I don't know. That doesn't sound right to me.
I agree with Bruce. I think games should reward people who are trying hard. The only thing is, I
I
don't
guess
see why people do try hard as much as they do. I feel like games should be more casual. You should enjoy them, not try your freaking hardest just to get a single kill. Like, calm down, man.
right, and so that not saying that it like it's like I have a problem with it. That is just something that is also contributing to what is happening. And like I played a game recently, the rework for The Last of Us, and I've never tryharded in a game as hard as that in a very long time. And as well as God of War is also another game that I think God of War is a little bit more difficult than The Last of Us. They're more difficult in their own separate ways, But those games force you into the immersion. They force you into feeling the discovery and the challenges that the game offers you. And so with God of War and such with that, I think they could have. I don't know what they could have done to implement it into the For Honor of how they captured the immersion of the game. With For Honor, they have the cutscene at the very beginning of each match where something happens, the guards or the minions get alerted to the position, they fire an arrow or some sort to start the battle. And seeing that at first, that was a great way to kind of get immersed into the battle that you're in. But after seeing that same cutscene 40 to 50, 100 times, it becomes kind of monotonous and actually kind of annoying. And you actually see the kind of the faults in the game. You start noticing the fact that the minions all exactly look the same. The Vikings, they all have beards the size of, a sailor, and they all have ball caps, kind of that thing. And so it's just like, oh, where's the individualism of each little minion? Why not have 2 or 3 different dudes? And that's where it's like they weren't focusing on the minions. They were focusing on the multiplayer. They were focusing on fine-tuning the mechanics of the game, and I have no problems with that. They made the game playable, and they've been working on the game for since last February, which has been one of the biggest comebacks because, if you guys could choose, how much money would you guys spend to play this game if you could choose the amount it's worth?
I think it's definitely worth full AAA title price, $60.
$70?
60, 70.
60?
Talking about
I'd
deluxe
probably-
edition.
It used to be
Honestly,
70.
from where I am now, I'd probably only pay $40 for it. But that being said, it also depends very much on I guess what you guys are doing, right? Because I like to play with friends, especially if it's a multiplayer game like that.
Mhm.
I wouldn't spend $60 just to play the campaign, try out multiplayer a bunch. But if I have friends that are in the game, I would probably spend the same amount as well. Yeah.
That's reasonable. What about you, Silas?
Well, considering I've bought this game for a bunch of friends, you know how much I'm willing to spend.
So $200 for Richard.
Boom.
What about
Hey.
you, Kason?
Some of us spend more on other games.
Lead. What?
Did I
Let's
what?
not
Sorry.
start this conversation.
How much would you pay for this game?
How much would I pay for that game? Well,
Casey would not buy it.
I would say that I would just throw it in the fire.
Oh, okay.
Wait, can we get some insight on why Kason doesn't like this game? I want to know.
He's
Wait.
had some bad.
You guys have been
bad
talking about it
times.
the entire time as to why.
You don't like anything? Okay.
The tryhards.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's in any game, so maybe you should just stop playing video games?
Why do you think I play a lot of single player games? That's
Which
why,
is
right
true.
there.
It's true.
So
Every time we play League,
Fair
he
enough.
messes around.
yeah, look at that for example. We just played Sona
Hey, you know what?
again. You remember that? You
respect
remember
that.
that?
That was a great one for all. Hey, yes.
So for me, at the beginning of when it came out in February, I probably would pay like $15 for that game. Now, I think I would drop a hard $50 for it. I think that is what it's worth.
You would have paid 15.
15
The
for the
graphics
beginning.
alone would have been $15.
The beginning,
I think the
the
graphics
beginning
were
when it
amazing.
was
Even in
with
the
all
beginning.
the bugs and all the problems that it had at the beginning when it was first released. At least this is what I'm saying.
I paid 15 for the beta, but
I got really pissed at the game way back, and I just stopped playing it. I just could not play the game anymore because the server issues. It would take 30 minutes to get into a game, and then it would lag me out of the game, and they would put me up against people that were way out of my league. And so I think the game at least for me, the game
hmm
the For Honor game has come an incredible amount of distance.
Yeah, I agree.
I think for me, when I first saw the game, I was just fanboying the crap out because I wanted to be a knight. I wanted to wear the helmet. I wanted to have the armor, sword fights, all that jazz. I was hyped as heck. It's the same as like when Battlefront came out. I didn't care how garbage the gameplay was. I was in a TIE fighter or I was a stormtrooper, bro.
It
So
was
for
the old
me,
Battlefront game. It's back, and then we all found out it's a
But, like,
lie.
for me, the fanboy in me is what spends the money. Like the fact that,
Me
bro,
too.
I'm a knight. I can be a knight in this game. Like, I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna buy it right now. Of course.
Right?
If I got friends playing it too.
You know what? That's also my problem. Is that I get so into the lore, and I want to know what, why, and how, and who it is that's there, that I will spend money just to find that out. That
He
tends
wants
to
to
be my
know
problem.
who Dabani's mother is, sister,
Pretty much.
children, if he has any. Probably
Hot
doesn't.
Sister DLC.
$35,000.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Done. Take my money.
Dude, I would pay $20 if I could have emotes that when I emote as a warden, it yells Dabanese things.
Or if you were the Lawbringer, it's just like, Dabani! And you're just like, oh, I played the
Like
game.
with
I know what you're
Halo,
talking about.
where you can buy like the voices and crap.
Yeah. That would be dope.
Did you know Cortana was the most bought voice for the Fire Team one?
Hey man, I bought freaking Master Chief all the way.
I just think
I just got Buck.
the difference for that is, like For Honor's not a lore based game. It's not even because think about it. Since when are you gonna have Vikings versus Samurai versus Knights? Like that's not gonna happen. They knew that there was gonna be such a clash that it's like, yeah, they're not gonna bother with lore. They're gonna bother with stories. They built a campaign to show off the characters, show off the game. So I will agree with Case in the sense that it's definitely not a lore game. It's not a I want to find out all the cool details. I want to basically read a book game. It's definitely meant to be competitive, multiplayer, eventual esport game.
Right.
They just made it look really pretty at the same time.
And I think that's the kind of the goal of a multiplayer game is one, make it look freaking good, and two, to make the game freaking tight, really, really tight, with the game mechanics. And that's exactly what they've done. I've had very few instances, save it be for lag, where I have been frustrated with the game itself. I've been frustrated with me, kind of thing. With missing a parry or missing a block, something like that. It's very tight to the point where it's just like it's all user error now instead of the game error.
I would disagree with that, but
Well,
Right.
And I'm sure that there are
when
things
you're a
that,
person that loves to blame lag, you definitely need to disagree with that. I agree with you on disagreeing with that.
well, that's why I say save it be for lag. The game is really tight.
Now I was just trying to poke the fun that like Richard believes lag is his problem, or like the problem that
but the
holds him
videos
back,
he-
right?
He saved and shown me. Lag is
it's-
definitely a problem for CLOs.
All right,
The
fix
same with
your
me
internet,
too.
bud.
Crazy. The lag in For Honor is some of the worst lag I've ever seen in a video game. It's ridiculous. And
It's
my
probably
internet
because
is
you've got
amazing.
so much going on between just the two people. Like even in a duel, right? You've got so much going on there. Imagine
Yeah.
having the whole battlefield.
But here's the thing, League is able to do much more, and there's so much more that's happening in the League.
Right,
game
but
than
it's a
there
lot
is,
simpler. Like the
For
graphics
Honor.
Yeah, the
there aren't
graphics are
gonna
much
require a
simpler.
CPU to basically show off the planet.
Well, then
Like,
Siege Think about Siege. There's a billion things that are going on in Siege.
I
You know,
honestly
I think
Siege has
I
the
think,
best
and
graphics.
here's with the lag that and playing League or playing all three of these games in comparison to each other, I do agree that League is a much simpler game in its format. But with Siege, I believe it's a much more complicated game because not only you have like 10 people, the game relies pixel peeking, and it's able to do that.
It relies on, but the pixel peeking is something the user does. It's not
Well,
like
that's what I'm
doesn't
saying
make
is
it
that
harder on the
no,
game.
that's how tight Siege is that you are able to do that. That the
Mhm.
game is aware that people can do that.
Yeah,
and
but you gotta think of it like this. First of all, you mentioned that there were 10 players. There's only 2 less players in For Honor. And the
But
other
here's
thing
the
is
thing.
you have all those minions too, and it got to keep track of how much life each single minion has and everything. You can stand there and watch the battle and watch each minion as how many hits they take until they die. And then, you already mentioned it, all those flashy effects that it's got to send to each player.
And so here's the thing with the flashy effects that comes as a pre-recorded, it's already downloaded on your system. All it needs to send is saying, "Hey, he did this effect."
Yeah, but it takes up RAM.
That's a PS4 thing. If
We don't need
your
to get too
computer,
far
we're
into-
talking about the internet and being able to relay
No,
information.
my internet's great.
Right.
All right. Shh. Listen.
Listen.
The Lord is about to speak.
Give it a
Chimichanga?
second.
We get it. Lag is a thing. All right. Like that's
Quote,
all. That's
me-
all there is to it. Pretty much. Yeah. Like
Lag
why,
is a thing.
why
That's
y'all?
legit.
Why are you arguing about it?
That's
Lag's
all
a
you
thing.
said.
You know the whole point of a podcast? It's a discussion.
You're supposed to argue.
Exactly.
But I give
we are
huge
getting
pro-
off topic.
I give huge props to For Honor in its ability to become so different and so diverse and so independent from the other games that it has around it.
It's a very
You know?
original.
It's very original. It's very original.
I'm
Surprising.
impressed
Well,
with
Something
you
about that as
awesome.
well. About the originality is like think about it. If you were to try and start streaming or being a YouTuber for like Fortnite or League, like what is the chance you get big nowadays? Like nothing, right? Because there's just so many of them. So, but that's the thing about For Honor is it's so unique that like if you were to do that, even since there are big players already, like for example, my favorite Daddy Law and like things like that, you start up and you be consistent and you will still get, all what, sorry, like what am I trying to say? Like you'll still get
You'll
enough.
still get an audience.
Yeah, you'll still get enough viewers because it's just such a unique fan base that even starting out now, even though there's already big people, you'll still get people. She's great.
I think that's true, but it's also kind of a flawed concept because if we look at Twitch viewer count for Honor, their average viewers for the past like months has been around 1,000. But that's the whole game, right?
Yeah.
It's
Pretty low.
really low. And on YouTube, they don't get tons of hits or videos. So I can agree with you in the sense that Richard, like the audience is there and there's less people to show it. So like you have a more chance of getting that audience. But then again, your audience is rather small compared to if you were to start doing something with League of Legends or Fortnite, which is like the biggest one right now. If you were able to actually manage and get popular on that one, the growth is so much bigger
Agreed.
because there's so many people
But
watching.
that's what I'm saying is like think about it. Like if
That's actually one thing I really like about For Honor, actually, is just how quaint the community is because you feel more like the in-game For Honor, there's people's just yelling at each other, calling people garbage and all that stuff. But if you go on Amino, if you know what that is, it's a mobile social app, kind of like Facebook, but more unrecognized and quaint. they have a little amino for honor, and it's obviously it's a social app, so it's a big community. There's a big community of For Honor players on amino, and if you could see what they're posting, and they're very like unique community. They're very creative people. Like you know you have your really crappy OCs on like everything ever, but people put OCs of their freaking wardens and stuff, and they make like in-depth stories. And I know about this group that I've been trying to do like something like Red versus Blue, but inside For Honor. They're very creative, and outside the game, like the community is really, it's
It's very
unlike
it's very like just really nice, very casual, but
yeah,
it's very
much different than
very
like
personal. You know, they care about the game.
Good community.
the community. It's like one of those communities that you would expect to be cringy, like League, League, Undertale, FNAF, but it's actually pleasant, and I actually enjoy it. You guys,
I guess it's
you
just
guys
like
should check it
toxic.
out. In game, it's toxic.
I mean, most games are.
Yeah, pretty much.
It'd be hard to find one that wasn't that toxic.
Well, Halo used to not be like that, but
Let's not
Those
talk
days are
about Halo.
dead.
Let's not talk about Halo.
So is
Well,
there anything else we wanted to?
I think
Kinda
we've
I
touch
heard
on, Joe?
Halo.
I
Oh,
think
no,
we've
no.
I think
You
we've
guys sure?
we've wrapped up all the we've got all the questions kind of cleared that I kind of put together, and I'm really happy with what we've come out with. I hope like if this becomes successful, I think we're gonna do something maybe on the next podcast. Maybe even League or even Siege in that matter.
Let's not talk about League until the meta shifts, please.
yeah,
Alright,
because
alright.
I'm just gonna rage at League the entire
Same.
time.
Same.
How
Alright.
about the viewers give us ideas of what we should do?
Oh,
Alright,
calm
guys.
down.
We're gonna say goodbye. Everyone say goodbye.
Alright, goodbye.
See you the
Bye.
next time.
You
Bye.
gorgeous. You
Bye.
gorgeous.